The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark. As Jesus was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a sizable crowd, Bartimaeus, a blind man, the son of Timaeus, sat by the roadside begging. On hearing that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, "Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me." And many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he kept calling out all the more, "Son of David, have pity on me." So they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take courage, get up. Jesus is calling you." He threw aside his cloak, sprang up, and came to Jesus. Jesus said to him in reply, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man replied to him, "Master, I want to see." Jesus told him, "Go your way. Your faith has saved you." Immediately he received his sight and followed him on the way. The Gospel of the Lord. My beloved brothers and sisters in Christ, I want to say a few words about me. I am Bartimaeus. Let me try to tell you what it's like for me to be blind. To be blind is to be cut off from other people. It is to be in a world of one's own. At times, loneliness enfolded me like a cold mist. I was cut off from all the things which make life worthwhile, things which sighted people take for granted. I was forced to beg for a living, which meant I was totally dependent on the charity of others. I was sitting at the roadside of life. My future was a long road, but a road without a goal. Life would never be any different. I would always be in the dark. Always on the margins, always lonely and cut off. I longed for one thing, to be able to see. The longing would not leave me if only it would go away. Then maybe I would have some peace inside myself. Some kind people gave me a coin as they passed, but no one stopped to talk to me. No one entered my lonely worlds, not even for a minute. The indifference of others, that is what hurt me most. It's terrible to be treated as if you had no feelings, like a block of wood. People speeded up as they approached me and slowed down once they were past. I could tell from the sounds of their footsteps. I never could understand this. It made me feel that I was in some way contaminated. The priest told me that my blindness was caused by sin. This means even God had no time for me, that he too had punished me out. That's how it was for me until one day I heard the sound of a large crowd. I inquired and was told that Jesus was passing. Suddenly, hope flared up inside me and began to cry out, "Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me." The people tried to silence me. They said I was an embarrassment, but I refused to be silent. I cried all the louder, and I was told that he had heard and was calling me. Throwing aside my cloak, I grabbed my way to meet him. He asked me, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Lord, please, let me to see." He asked no further questions. He just said, Go on your way. It was your faith that saved you." I asked myself, how could I go my own way and forget all about it? I followed him along the road. I became a disciple of his. What a joy it was to be able to see. I wanted to reach out and touch everyone. I looked at them all as my friends. In my meeting with Jesus, I had felt his love. He had not only brought me in front the margins, but had given me a place of honor at the banquet of life. Jesus said that his mission was to open the eyes of the blind. His mission was not so much a question of bringing physical sight to people, but of bringing them vision, of giving them another way of looking at life. It wasn't a question of opening people's eyes physically, but of opening their minds, their imaginations, and especially their hearts. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. Jesus opened the eyes of Zacchaeus to the danger of riches and got him to share with the poor. He opened the eyes of the dying thief to God's mercy and welcomed him into paradise. I remember the story I shared with you a couple times. It's always keep in my mind. The young couple with 2 children celebrate 5th anniversary of their marriage. They celebrate by weekend, and at the end they come back home. It was heavy rain and it was accident. But after the accident, when they were in the hospital, the doctor said everything is under control, everything is fine. They come back home. And after a couple of weeks, the gentleman, he said, "I had a problem with my visibility. Maybe something happened after this accident." Finally, very quick, he lost his visibility. He was blind. He started to live with this new reality. And like Bartimaeus, He said openly, maybe this is the cause of my sins, but I trust him. I believe in my God. Why? Wife, children, they have a problem to get response. To get response for his questions. And finally, when they talked to priest, their friend, he said, he must find Jesus again. He's the one who can open his eyes again. You have to pray for your husband, children, for your father. After a couple of weeks, he starts be more courageous to take his white stick and go away, find some new friends. But one day, when he come back very quickly after he leave. He opened the door and he heard in his room his wife and children, they pray and asking God for her husband and daddy, for the gift of light. And he started crying. He came to the room and he said, God is glorified. Why? Because he opened my eyes. But he opened the eyes of my heart and my soul. And now I can see him. That's a new experience in my life. Maybe without of this accident, I had no chance to find him again. We don't have to be physically blind, my brothers and sisters, to feel in the dark. At times, any of us can feel lonely and cut off. We find ourselves on the margin of things. We are no longer useful or wanted. People ignore us. Without love, the world is very dark. The world is very sick. And people want us to keep quiet. And we ourselves may too be ashamed to cry out. Maybe political correction that kick out many good people from the society, from the communities. Because people, they have a hard time to looking for the truth. And it's better to ask for those who can help us to say, yes, you're right. Because it's nothing cost to say somebody like this. But to say the truth, many times it means to lose the friends, my best friends. Because their own scenario for life is without of God and his values. Short life, crazy life. Without of goal, perspective, sense. At those times, we must have a courage. We know about it. And the humility to cry out to the Lord, Lord, that I may see Jesus as the only one who brings us in front of the margins. He tells us that we are precious to the Father. He gives us a seat at the banquet of the kingdom. My beloved friends, Jesus wants us to do for others what he did for Bartimaeus. We must not pass the lonely person by or leave them on the margins, but by our love, our care, our time, our good heart, we are to let a little light into a world of darkness.